This is my 10-gallon planted bedroom tank. I have 2 Oedogonium and 12 juvenile Colombian tetra in the tank. A couple weeks ago I noticed some hair algae growing on the anubias on the right. So I removed the decoration and sprayed it down with hydrogen peroxide and then left it in a bucket of water for a couple of days in blackout conditions. And the treatment rid the plants of the green hair algae, but it nearly destroyed the plant. Many of the leaves are brown. I removed probably most of the leaves from the plant. There are a few remaining healthy leaves on it, so hopefully it will bounce back. And I have noticed that there is some green hair algae growing on other plants in the tank. So what I'd like to do is a little less invasive treatment. I want to remove the 2 decorations on the left that have anubias attached to them to my 75-gallon tank, where 5 true Siamese algae-eaters can eat all the algae, and then return the 2 decorations to this tank. Now that might cause a few of the leaves to deteriorate, but hopefully it won't be as hard on the plants as using hydrogen peroxide and blackout. Here's my 75-gallon tank. Along with the true Siamese algae-eaters, there are 2 male black mollies, quite a few male fancy guppies, some young Colombian tetra, and 1 South American bumblebee catfish. I used to have some plants in this tank. The only plants that did well were the anubias, but they tended to get caked with a flat green algae that the true Siamese ignore. I tried several types of rooted plants, but the Siamese algae-eaters tended to uproot them. So I've just used driftwood to hide the heaters and the intakes of the hang-on-the-back filters, and have 1 fake hide in the center where the South American bumblebee catfish likes to hide. And it's easy to feed him frozen foods with a turkey baster. When I removed the 2 anubias that were supposedly attached to driftwood ornaments on the left, actually both of them had fallen off and were just sitting there amongst those plants. I found out that each plant only has 2 leaves left, so I decided to tie them both to 1 driftwood ornament and remove as much algae off the leaves as I could with my fingers gently and just return them to the tank. I don't believe at this stage I want to risk moving them to the 75-gallon and back, going through all that stress with only 2 leaves left. It might expire. The plant behind them is doing quite well. Its root structure is firmly attached to the tiny piece of driftwood on a piece of slate, but the substrate is covering the slate. If I remove that, it's going to uproot a lot of the plants, so I decided to leave it for now. I did go ahead and remove most of the dead and dying leaves from the plant on the right. It has a few leaves left, So I think it'll bounce back. Also trimmed a bit of the runners or roots. They were just kind of going everywhere. There's a lot of algae on the dwarf Sagittaria. I may just trim some of those leaves that are heavily infested. And hopefully, with weekly water changes, eventually much of the algae issues will disappear in this tank. So overall, it's doing quite well.